Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the SEO and You Beginner's Guide to, SEO, powered by Pearl Lemon and brought to you by me. Welcome back, everybody. In episode 2 today, we'll be covering search engines, the basics of what they are, how they function, and how they tie into SEO. A quick recap of yesterday's episode. There we go. Last episode, we covered several things, primarily keywords, what SEO really is, its role in web dev, and several other things that you can see on page. If you want to, please go back to the previous episode. You'll find a link to that episode down below. In today's general breakdown, we'll be covering, search engines, what they are, how they function, and many different things about them. Because without search engines, the internet as we know them today won't function. Okay, so what is a search engine? Well, a search engine is a web-based tool slash software designed to help users find information on the internet. The internet is our largest library. It contains millions upon millions upon millions of bytes of data, petabytes of data, more data than you can ever really even quantify or imagine. And more information is being uploaded every day. A search engine helps categorize that data and information and allows for us to more easily find what we're doing. Same as that, it allows individuals to search for content such as web pages, images, videos, and other types of files by entering keywords or phrases into a search bar, right? So it is allowing you to basically say, this is what I want to find, please find it for me, right? So a search engine then returns a list of results that it considers relevant to the user's query or search. We usually just say query. It's because it's an easy word, right? So the primary function of a search engine then is to index this large, vast amount of information and then provide the user an easy way to locate that content based on their search, right? So there are certain things, for example, that you realize later on, like let's say that Google doesn't take certain characters or words into account when you type it out. It breaks it down into the keywords that it's searching for and then pops that out as a result. Okay. SEO or search engine optimization is our way of helping search engines index and categorize our content for online display. So basically, what that means is that when we are doing SEO as developers, as content writers, as uh, connoisseurs of the internet, right? We are helping different search engines like Google, Bing, Yahoo, GoGoDuck. We are helping these different search engines sort of add tags and add names and add references to our information on our web pages so that it's more easily searched online. So Google doesn't have to try as hard and thus gives us a better mark in general. It's like handing in an essay handwritten, but in a very good handwriting and in different colors to show where everything is. All right? So search engines work through a multi-step process to deliver this relevant content based on the search query or user query, right? What does that mean? Well, in general, search engines like Google operate on a simplistic sort of step, right? So first step is crawling. So basically, search engine use automated programs called spiders or bots to crawl through the web. Basically, think of the internet as a giant spider web. And within each of these, within the spider web, there are different smaller webs called websites, right? What Google basically does is that it sends out these spider programs and they crawl along the web and then they find a website that they're looking for, right? These bots navigate those web pages by following the different links in between these pages. And they discover and gather this information all together. This is why things in SEO like alt tags, like meta descriptions, meta tags, content length, content clarity, readability, that's why all of this is so important because these crawlers come through, they pick up all this information, and then they do what is called indexing, right? So once a bot has crawled the page, the information is then indexed. And what that basically means is that it organizes all of these things into different variable containers and then stores all that collected data into one massive database, right? Into one massive folder with everything related to a specific page or video or whatever stored in that, right? This allows then for a user when they're searching something to search a specific query and for Google servers to quickly search through everything, grab the relevant information, and then pull it forward based on its algorithm, right? So ranking algorithms, basically what this means is that when a user enters a search query or search question, or whatever, the search engine uses a complex algorithm, which is basically just a series of steps to determine the relevancy of web pages in its index, right? This is where things like rank domain, rank authority, URL, backlink profile, which we'll get into later, all start to play a factor in this step of the basic display section, right? In the ranking algorithm, right? Like I said, the algorithm takes into a lot of factors into account: keyword relevancy, content quality, page structure, all of this, right? And basically, then during the search query, when Google starts ranking out these results, or when a search engine ranks out these results, what's going to happen is that that list is going to depend entirely on the rank algorithm. The rank algorithm results that rank highest for certain pages are going to appear at the top. And statistically, people don't go beyond the first page of Google for most of their search queries, right? So if you were to read this through, when a user submits a search query, the search engine retrieves the most relevant results from its index based on the ranking system. The goal is to present the user with a list of web pages that best matches their query. And we call that page that the people get a results page, right? The search engine displays the results on a search engine results page or a SERPs page, right? We just call them SERPs. Typically, the most relevant and authoritative pages are listed at the top, and the order of results may vary based on a specific query and the user's location. So, outside of just that, like it says there are specific things that can affect your search depending on you as an individual, though not as highly. Stuff like search history, add ons, specific things like that, that can affect the results page, but not as drastically as some people might have been led to believe by other sources. So maybe perhaps things might be just switched around a bit. Relevant pages that you have visited before might appear at the top. But in general, that's how Google does everything. It crawls the page to find the page and find out information about it. It indexes that by saving all of that data into a massive database. It then has a ranking algorithm which takes all of that information and then compares it to other web pages and other web services and then brings everything together. The user then has a search query which it then search. The web page, or sorry, the Google's algorithm or Google servers then goes through its database, finds the queries that matches up directly to the search query of the user, and then displays it on a SERPs page. Okay? Some important things to note is that it's important to note that search engines continuously update the algorithms to provide more accurate and useful results. Additionally, paid advertisings, often in the form of sponsored links or ads, may also appear on SERPs, and they usually appear at the top or bottom of the page. This refers to search engine marketing. Uh, Search engine marketing, which we will cover on in a later date. That is slightly different to how this affects, but most of the time, organic traffic is the best form of long-term growth for your website. As I just said, these ads are separate from the organic searches and are typically marked as such. If you ever go to a page and you search something and you see a tag on the side that says ad, that means it is a paid search result. Basically, you've typed in a query that somebody's paying ads for Google to show, and that's why it's there, right? As SEO developers and content writers, we don't exactly know what Google or any other search engine is looking for, but we can make some educated guesses based on what they, the search engine developers, have given us. All right. So we don't know exactly what it is that the algorithm waits for. In general, what we are trying to do though is follow the guidelines that people like Google or companies like Google have given us to ensure that our content is ranked alongside that sort of path that they want, right? We can also use tools like SEMrush, Ahrefs, Screaming Frog, and Google Search Console to identify weaknesses, strengths, and problems with our approach to SEO and change as required and as necessary. All right. This basically allows us to make sure that even if there is a rapid change, using other tools or plugins with WordPress such as Rank Math or Yoast, we can keep within the relatively unchanging boundaries of specific variables to ensure that we always get results no matter what changes happens. There's very few times there is a major change across the entirety of the internet because that requires a lot of work on Google's side to implement correctly. So most of the times we try and stick within certain variables that we know have delivered results in the long term and which are likely to continue delivering further down the line. Okay. Because of that, SEO is not something that you learn once and forget about. It's something you have to constantly keep on top of, especially in today's age of AI and rapid development. This is very important because a lot of people uh, will try and enter into the space using tools such as ChatGPT, Stable Diffusion, and they'll try and sort of market themselves as certain things. But what they don't realize is that these are tools that they have commercially. Um, and Google, Bing, all of these massive corporations worth billions of dollars who make their money off of these services have tools far more powerful than that can track and find that. So it's very important for you to keep up to date with technologies to see how you can use it as a developer, as a content writer, and how to implement that in the long term as a tool in your arsenal, another paintbrush in your set instead of your main focus. Okay. Finally, in summary, when a user enters a query into the search engine, it uses complex algorithms to analyze and rank web pages based on factors like relevancy, content quality, and authority. The goal then for SEO is to present the user with a list of results that is most likely to meet their informational or required query needs. Right? Users can then click on the search results to visit respective pages and access content they are looking for. Right? That in general is what SEO and search engines do. Search engines are complex machines with constantly evolving and constantly changing. And in tomorrow's lesson, we are going to cover um, search engine marketing and how it relates to SEO. If you have any questions, please feel free to drop it in the comments. In general, what you should know about search engines is that they are complex machines that can be simplified down to the barest essentials. We don't have to worry about all 500 variables or 600 variables that are likely involved in the decision-making process. We have to focus in on maybe 10 or 20 and really knock those out of the park. We need to focus in on specific points within the niche that we are aiming for and generate our entire brand around those. Instead of trying to cast the net as wide as possible, to capture as many points in terms of SEO and search engine, we should try and compress down that list as small as possible for the greatest possible impact. All right. So instead of going for 100 variables, we'll go for 10. Instead of going for the highest difficulty keywords based on our ranking, we'll go for middle of the pack. We will try and get as much bang for our buck as possible as SEO optimized developers. All right. SEO developers, sorry. Tomorrow we'll cover search engine marketing and how that relates, its pros and its cons in comparison to organic SEO. If you have any questions, please feel free to drop them in the comments down below, and I will see you all tomorrow.